How do I figure out what's next in my career? How do I align my work with what truly matters to me? And the biggest question of all, can I really design a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to come at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I've seen how traditional paths can leave people burned out or boxed in. And I know there's a better way, one that invites you to let go of outdated rules and outside expectations, one that evolves and supports meaningful growth over time. Whether you're feeling stuck, craving more clarity, or ready to expand within your current role and beyond, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to explore practical, modern strategies for building a meaningful, heart-based career. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy, and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Jen Smith, and today we're talking about one of the most underrated and honestly, one of the most impactful tools for job searching and making a career change, and that is the informational interview. If you're even thinking about changing careers, I want you to pause for a second before updating your resume, before applying to jobs you're not even sure you really want, before convincing yourself you need another certification or another credential or another box checked. Because here's what I see all the time. People try to leap into a new career path without actually talking to the humans who are already living it. And that's where informational interviews come in. They're simple and they can save you years of misalignment and a lot of time in your job search as well. When someone tells me they're overwhelmed by making a career transition, it's rarely because they lack ability. It's usually because they're trying to make a big decision in isolation based off of job descriptions, LinkedIn titles, and assumptions about what you know about the role, which really might not be what it's like in the day-to-day. But here's the thing, my friends, careers don't live on paper or on LinkedIn. They live in real workdays. And informational interviews give you access to that reality. So they kind of let you step inside a role or a new industry or a company before you commit to it. And they can give you firsthand insider information into what a job is really going to be like, what skills matter most to the team, even how to position yourself as a strong candidate, even if you don't have the direct experience they're looking for. Plus, they help you build valuable connections that could lead to a future job opportunity. So today we're going to talk about what an informational interview is, how to set one up, some of the best questions to ask, and how you can make the most of what you learn. So let's get to it. What is an informational interview? So the way that I like to describe this is that an informational interview is a casual, one-on-one conversation with someone in a job or an industry that you're interested in. Sometimes I like to call these advice chats because it sounds a little less daunting than an interview. Now, the goal is not to ask for a job, but to learn what it's really like to work at an organization or in a particular role. So you kind of think of it like research. It's a research tool that gives you those real insights you won't find on their website or on a job description. And then unlike a traditional job interview, there's no pressure. So you don't have to sell yourself or prove that you're the right fit. Instead, you're there to ask questions, gather guidance, and hear personal experiences. And these conversations help you discover different industry trends maybe that you haven't thought of. You can learn about the workplace and the culture, and then it can even lead to hidden opportunities you might not have considered. Plus, informational interviews can help boost your confidence. So you're having candid discussions with people in the field, and that gives you a better sense of what to expect, especially if you're new to the field. So they help you practice discussing your background and to see how that resonates with potential employers or new colleagues. And then by learning how professionals talk about their work and what they look for in new team members, you'll feel even more prepared when it's time for your own actual interview. So that's a little bit about what they are. Now let's talk about how to connect with the right people. This is the question I always get, is how to find the right people for an informational interview. It might sound challenging, but my guess is that it's a little bit easier than you actually think. And I always say, start with your network, your existing friends, family, former colleagues, alumni, someone you know may be connected to your target career path. So start with people you know. It's very simple. Just let people know that you're exploring a new field or a new role and ask if they know anybody that they could introduce you to. As long as you know what you want, these conversations can be really impactful. So a warm introduction through a mutual contact is going to make it much easier to get a positive response. Now, of course, you could do cold outreach. So if you don't have any direct connections, you could use LinkedIn and send a message asking for an informational interview. So what you could do is go into LinkedIn in the search bar and type in your desired company. And then when you hit enter, you'll see a button for people. And so you could search for professionals in a company or a role or department or function that you're interested in and potentially send a cold outreach. So one of the things I like to recommend is potentially breaking the ice first. So you could comment thoughtfully or share their post or like something that they're sharing. That's going to build a little bit of familiarity and then makes your cold outreach a little bit more natural. I'll just share this. When I was a recruiter, I always noticed when someone genuinely engaged with my LinkedIn posts. And if they later reached out for an informational interview, I was definitely more inclined to say yes because I noticed and I recognized them from LinkedIn. Another idea here is to leverage industry groups or online communities or professional organizations. So you could immerse yourself with industry-specific groups on Facebook, Slack, any professional forums, and then actively contributing to discussions and then asking for a chat. So engaging in these spaces helps you build credibility and it makes it easier for a short conversation with professionals in the field. And then when you actually reach out to someone to ask for an informational interview, a well-written message can definitely make the difference. The key is to be thoughtful, clear, and respectful of the other person's time. Which makes me want to mention here that it's important to make the message personal. There's a lot of spam, a lot of salesy stuff out there, especially on LinkedIn, and people are much more likely to respond if they feel you're genuinely interested in their work versus receiving some kind of generic request. So you could mention something specific about their career path. You could talk about maybe the city they live or work in. Maybe you went to the same college. You could mention an article that you saw them write or a project they worked on. Anything like that that's going to get their attention and know that you are genuine. So a simple line like, "Hey, so-and-so, I came across your post on LinkedIn about AI in the medical world, and I found it really insightful." So it's just something simple like that can help build a connection and show that you've done your research. Of course, you want to be really clear about your intentions. So let the person know why you're reaching out and what you hope to learn. This can be super short and sweet, like I'm considering a career change into the medical industry. I would love to hear about your experience in the field. If you have 20 minutes, I'd really appreciate the opportunity to ask you a few questions. So again, this makes it really clear that you're not asking for a job, you're not trying to sell anything, you're just asking for guidance. It's also important to make it really easy for the other person to say yes. People are busy. There are things happening all day, every day. So you want to offer a short time frame and then be flexible. Now, you could suggest a phone call or a video chat or even a quick coffee meetup if they're local. But you could also just ask a few questions in DMs on LinkedIn if that's easier. So including a line like, I'm happy to work around your schedule and I can meet at, this, and this time if that's convenient for you. That shows, again, respect for their time and that you're willing to accommodate their availability. I always get a question about follow-up because sometimes you won't hear back right away, but I do recommend to follow up. So if you don't hear back after a week or so, a polite follow-up can help without feeling pushy. So simply reply to your original message with something like, I know you're busy. I just wanted to follow up in case my message got buried. I'd still love to connect if you had time. So if they just still don't respond, don't take it personally. Just move on and reach out to someone else. You never know what's going on in someone's life. So building connections and relationships takes time, and a little persistence without pressure can go a long way. Now, once you land the informational interview, you want to make sure that you're prepared. So with the right preparation, you're going to feel more confident and really ready to seize the opportunity. So think about your goals for the conversation. Knowing your goals will help you focus on what's most important. So are you looking to learn more about a specific role or learn about a company's culture? Or maybe even explore potential different career paths, or even just build a relationship that could lead to another opportunity or referrals. So I recommend doing your research. Look up the person on LinkedIn, check out their profile, review their work history, see what kind of content they share if they're out posting on LinkedIn. And this will help you understand their background and give you talking points. And it can also help you break the ice. If you have anything in common with them, you can definitely bring that up in the conversation. And that usually breaks the ice and makes things more easy. From there, you want to prepare some key questions. So once you know what your goals are, you want to have some questions ready ahead of time. Having a solid list of questions will help guide your conversation and ensure that you're getting really good insights that are going to support your career transition. So here's a couple of my favorite questions. Number 1, what do you love and not love about either a role, a company, or an industry? That 2-part question is going to give you the real scoop about what's going well and maybe what is not going well according to that person. And that's really valuable information when you're making decisions. Another question, what do you wish you had known when you first started in this field? This is a really thoughtful question that's going to get the wheels turning and probably give you some really good information if you're just starting in a new field. Now, of course, you could say company or role as well. So what do you wish you had known when you first started with this company? That's a really good question to get some insights into what's going on at that organization. If you're specific to a role, you could ask about the challenges in the role. I remember asking that question to a career coach when I was thinking about becoming a career coach. This was before career coaching was a thing. I asked about challenges and she was really open and honest with me. You could ask about skills. You could ask about what a typical day looks like in the role or the industry or the company. And then you could also ask for guidance. So what kind of guidance would you give someone looking to transition into this field? Now, these questions show that you're genuinely interested in learning more, and then you want to be prepared to listen carefully to their insights. So by asking these open-ended questions, you're going to get a better sense of whether this new path is going to be a good fit for you. Another pro tip is to think about what you can offer to the conversation. And I always say, lead with a service mindset. This is going to make a lasting impression. So for example, could you offer to connect them with someone in your network or express gratitude by following up with a really thoughtful note and updating them on your progress? I personally think gratitude and just saying thank you for your time goes a long way, and it will help you remain memorable with this person. So here's what to do during the informational interview. So you want to create a comfortable, engaging atmosphere, and that's going to help you get the insights and build a strong connection that could support your transition. So the idea here is to set the context. So first, quickly introduce yourself and establish why you're reaching out. This is going to make the conversation flow much more naturally. And you probably mentioned it during your first outreach or an email exchange, but it's important to remind them. So you don't need to give your entire play-by-play career history here. Just a quick explanation, something like, hey, I'm currently working in fintech, but I'm exploring a transition into medtech. I admire your path and would love to learn more about your experience. So again, that frames the conversation and makes it clear that you're there to learn, not asking strangers for jobs. A friendly, conversational tone will make the discussion feel much more natural and engaging. And taking notes was going to help you remember key points. But one caution here, don't let it distract you. So just jotting down a few highlights rather than trying to transcribe everything. Or if you're going to use AI, if it's over Zoom or it's over the phone, just make sure that the person knows that you're going to be using AI to take notes. Active listening, if you're in person, active listening is key. You want to nod and make eye contact and then respond to what they're saying rather than just waiting for your turn to speak. So it turns into a conversation, not an interview with a spotlight on one or the other person. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you make the most of what you learned. So I always recommend to take time and reflect on what you learned. Assess whether the insights that you gained align with your career goals and if this career change still feels right for you. That's one of the best things about an informational interview. You could get information that says, you know what? I'm not sure I really want to move into medtech right now, or this company's not sounding like it's going to be a really great values fit for me. So paying attention to what you're looking for and what you're hearing and making sure that that matches is a really key piece of these conversations. And I have to say, if that happens, consider exploring adjacent fields or organizations, connecting with more professionals, or even adjusting your career path slightly based on what you learn. So this is all about refining your direction based on real-world insights. Once you've processed the information, you want to use it to take action. So tailor your job search based on the new knowledge that you have. So that might mean targeting different roles, highlighting specific skills that maybe you didn't think about highlighting, or even seeking further networking opportunities. One of the things I always recommend is if you're talking to somebody at an organization that you're really interested in, and the conversation's going well, why not ask them for another person to reach out to? So, hey, so-and-so, I really enjoyed this conversation. Who else would you recommend I talk with? So that can just start to build your network very naturally. Not to mention, the insights that you gain from these discussions will also help you shape your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and help you prepare for interviews. They are invaluable. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to share a quick example of how this works in real life. So I worked with a beloved who was a project manager in healthcare. She specifically worked in hospital. She felt really stuck and assumed she needed to leave the healthcare industry entirely. So she started looking in all different industries all over the place. Instead of jumping ahead, she reached out to someone on LinkedIn who worked in a digital health startup. And this person was actually a program manager. So they had a similar background, but just a different environment. They scheduled a 20-minute informational interview. And during that conversation, she learned what the role looked like day to day, which skills mattered in the digital world versus the actual hospital. She learned which skills didn't matter and how her experience already translated to this different type of work environment. So she realized she didn't need a complete overhaul. She just needed a different kind of version of her role. And so once that conversation helped to narrow her search, she updated her information, her resume. She felt really confident and she focused her networking in that direction. And that's exactly what informational interviews are meant to do. So they're short, they're low pressure conversations, and they help you kind of test a direction before committing to it. They're going to save you a ton of time. They're going to save you from making assumptions that can send you down a path you didn't want to go down. So let's recap. Informational interviews are simple, low-pressure conversations to help you learn. They're not about asking for jobs. They're about understanding a role, an industry, or a company and what it looks like in real life from somebody who's living it. When it comes to who to reach out to, start closer than you think. Friends, colleagues, alumni, former colleagues, LinkedIn connections, start with people you know. And if you don't have a warm intro, thoughtful, cold outreach will work, especially when it's grounded in curiosity and respect for somebody's time. In terms of how to conduct an informational interview, keep it human, keep it focused, do a little homework, ask open-ended questions, and listen more than you talk. You want to treat it like a conversation, not like an interview. And then after the conversation, take a moment to reflect. Notice what energized you, notice what didn't, and then that's how clarity will build. And if you want a little more help putting this into action, I have a free informational interview checklist I'd love to offer you, and you can download that in the show notes. Remember, you don't have to overhaul your entire career overnight. One thoughtful conversation will help. I hope this was helpful for you. As always, my friends, the notes from today's episode are on the blog at flourish.careers/blog. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.